Hello, my friends. Oh, hold on. First, let me dress up for the camera. Okay, there we go. Now I'm dressed up. Now I'm about to go work out, so I haven't gotten ready for the day. So at least this makes me presentable. All right, what I'd like to do is do one of a few videos on Flutter. Flutter is one of the leading frameworks for doing mobile development, among other things. And I'm doing a project right now that involves that. I am by no means an expert at this point. I'm brand new, but since I keep on having to do the equivalent of Hello World over and over again, I thought I would just kind of walk through for any new person how to basically do Hello World in a Flutter app. So let's go ahead and walk through that. So first, I'm going to share my screen and move in a window here. Let me move some of the navigation out of the way. All right. And one of the first things you have to do is get Dart and Flutter and Visual Studio Code installed. So if I type in like Flutter tutorial, you'll see this docs.flutter.dev. And if you were to come over here, it says write your first app. And then you click on Start Code Lab. And it tells you to install Visual Studio Code as an example. And then it tells you to install the Flutter SDK. And this is probably the hardest part of all of this. So you select your computer. I'm using a Mac. So if I were to click that, the next thing it tells, then it asks like, what kind of app are you planning to make? I'm doing mobile phones. So iOS, and as I scroll down, it says first install Rosetta, and then it says install Xcode, and then it says install Cocoa Pods, and then it says install the Flutter SDK, and then you include the whatever it's called in Visual Studio Code. Hold on a sec. So this little icon right here, extensions. There we go. Couldn't remember the word there for a minute. And so after I did install on all of those things, I note that over here I have Dart installed, which is the programming language that underlies the framework for Flutter. And then Flutter is also installed. So now I'll get auto completion on things related to that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do Hello World. The first thing I'm going to need is a place to put my code. So let me go ahead and prepare a folder that will be ready for that. So on my computer in my to delete folder that I keep, I'm going to create a tutorial right here for Hello World. Okay, so I find that it's a little weird to get started on these things. So one of the things I can do is if I have an external keyboard installed, I can type F1 and then start typing in Flutter, and this is here. Or let me reach really far away to my keyboard, which is, or my actual computer. It's oh boy, was it Shift Command P? Okay, Shift Command P, and then again, you could type in Flutter, and it's the same thing. All right, so let's do the same thing from the beginning. I'm going to hit F1 on my keyboard. It's an external keyboard, and I select Flutter, new project, and then I'm going to click on Application. And then I need to have a folder. And so I have this to delete folder, Flutter tutorials. I want to be working in this area. And I need to give this thing a name, and I will call it Flutter Hello World. And I hit return. And watch what happens. It's busy making a whole ton of stuff for me. And really, if everything's gone correctly, I should be able to show an application right away. if I go down here in the lower right, it gives me a set of options for where I can display things. And let me go ahead and start the iOS simulator. So now I could theoretically preview my app on either a mobile device or on a simulated Mac application. So first, let me just show it on the Mac. So if I come over here and if I just say Mac OS, and if I click on okay, I'm looking for this little debug icon. If I click this run debug icon, then it says it's launching. Now, this is cheating a little bit. I'm going to edit it in just a minute and explain the code that is here. But what it's going to do is pop up a window similar to this one, and it's going to have some content in it. And I've done this many times, so I don't know why it takes so long. There we go. All right, it is popping up in another window, and it looks like this. So without having done any coding, basically I have this app bar at the top, this main content window, and an incrementer right here, basically a raised button. I've got some state, so some variable in the background that's tracking this. So this, of course, is a good way to learn some things. And then let's just for giggles, let me go ahead and close this and select my this little guy right here. And let's see if I can um, run it on this. So now it's trying to run it on an old iPhone. It's, can't remember why I wanted to do that, but momentarily this should um, run on here. Just in case it takes a minute, I will just pause so I'm not sitting here awkwardly in silence for a long time. Okay, that took another 30 or so seconds, and you can see it looks exactly the same as it did when it was basically preparing itself for display on a native Mac application. So if I click plus, I can now see what this would look like as a phone app. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit this little button right here, which basically stops it from running. Although, you know what, I don't actually have to do that. One of the things that's super nice about this is its ability to do hot reloading. And so I'm going to go back to the Mac one, and not that it matters, it should be the same no matter what I do. And with the main.dart window open, so I got the main.dart folder open, I'm going to click run again and let it start. Um, and let me go ahead and minimize the files and let's look at the code real quick related to what is being displayed. So at a high level, let me move things over a little bit, and I'm going to replace some of this just to simplify it to do hello world. But it starts by running my app, and my app is a class that's right here. Here's its constructor. And one thing to think about is when you look at a page in Flutter, everything is typically a widget. So they'll be like, so think of it as like just stacking things on top of each other. So there is a widget that stands for everything that you view, and then there's like, you know, a, a widget for this button. And basically all the visual components are just either individual widgets or they're widgets stacked on top of other widgets. So as we look at the code, we're just going to see things overtly named widget, or regardless of what it is, it's still a widget. Even this text is a widget. So there's two different kinds of text: widget, 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 and then the whole view is a widget. So let's come over here. So this is saying there, this right here, the start of the app says it's a stateless widget, which means that we're not planning on storing something like text or variables as if this were a video game and we need to keep track of something. Um, but ironically, we do end up getting state in just a minute. So basically, the overall thing says, and this is also weird, every single widget has a build method, and the build method returns a widget. So in this default thing that they give us right from the start, it just says, I'm going to create something called a material app, and then I'm gonna, well, so yeah, I mean, basically we're the first visual component is going to be a material app. And I actually just Googled that. I was like, what is a material app? And let's see if I can find the right window here. So it's a material app is a top level widget that basically sets up some good practices for visual presentation. So if you think about it, you don't want to create, you know, do everything from scratch. You want to maybe leverage smart things related to creating a mobile app. And so it just says if you use Material App as your highest level widget that you're going to nest things underneath, some of the things you get are some built-in navigation capabilities and probably first and foremost theme management. So it's kind of cool because as you layer widget upon widget upon widget upon widget, you can select a color theme and also potentially fonts and everything kind of just like figures itself out in terms of like what looks good for colors. You don't have to go back to the mid 90s for website development when things were super ugly. You can have things looking like super pretty because it automatically will pick out font colors and stuff like that if you do this right. So here's an example of a simplified application. So basically create a material app and it can have a title, a theme, and then go open up another widget that's going to have display stuff. So let's kind of mess with this for a second. So I'm coming out here, and as part of my top level widget in my app, it says color scheme from seed. Oh, interesting. So I knew that. I was just saying that out loud. So let's just say I pick something else like green. All right, let me come back over here. Okay, I picked another color. So if I go over here and I save, and then I pull this back up again, you can see that it automatically changed all the things in this visual interface to some form of green, which is great. All right, let's and then as part of this, one of the properties or attributes of this material app, in this case, is including basically another widget or page. And it's calling it My Homepage. Now, this My Homepage on here is a little bit complicated because it basically is it's a stateful widget. So then it basically then calls another page which has the ability to basically maintain some variables that are displayed between page views. So we're talking about this guy right here. So in order to be able to do this, we need to have some state. So I figure for a hello world demo, that's maybe a little bit uh, too much. So let's just go with we created a new app using their start functionality, F1, create a new app, gave it a name, and then it has this high level thing called the Material app, which gives us a color. And then we're allowed to basically include another page in there. So let me just do an example of instead of using their stuff, let's create our own page from scratch. So since everything's basically a widget that you display on a page, let's create a new widget, basically a new page. and I will call that. So there's a little shortcut, and you can do either stateless widget or stateful widget. So if I do STLESS, I don't even know if I need two S's, but anyway, it will prompt me for, hey, do you want to create a stateless widget? And so, yes, I will do that. Or I could have done stateful, and that would have been an option as well. There we go. So rather than memorize how to do all of this stuff from scratch, I can just do it this way. And I need to give it a name. So I'll call this my home 2 and hit save. And so rather than do this thing, which they created for us, I'm going to do this one, my home 2. Okay, so very bare bones. Notice that it in terms of what it's going to display on the page, it's part of its build method. Uh, it's going to return another widget, but this one's called placeholder. So as we're building visual components, it gives you a default class called placeholder. So if I come right here, I'm about to replace everything on the screen with placeholders. So let's just watch what that looks like. So with the hot reload, it looks like that. So if I had something with like multiple components on the page or widgets, maybe a navigation bar, an app bar, different things like that, a view area, if I just say put the placeholder in any of those things, then I can come back and fix it later on. Okay, so instead of this placeholder, one of the most basic pieces of text that I can put on a page is literally called text. And so that is a widget, just like placeholder, just like all the other things that we're seeing. So I will type in hello world and I will hit save. And it doesn't look very exciting, but there you go. There's hello world. You could probably stop right there, but let's just go ahead and build on this a little bit more. Like, so what if I wanted to have more than one thing on a page? Well, as part of this return, usually you're using something to format what the stuff looks like on the page. And there's a ton of options. There's things called like list views, and you can use center as a container to center things horizontally or vertically. I can't remember which one that one applies to. There's just a whole bunch of things that you put them in. And whenever you wrap some of your display stuff with something else at a higher level, usually that whatever you're displaying them gets put into a child attribute or a child array. So let me think of something that I could do. One thing would be list view. So I'm going to click on this text right here and let's see. Hold on a second. I want to wrap. I want to hold on. Let me collect my thoughts for a second before I talk any further. Okay, now I know what I was thinking. Um, so whenever I want to maybe get this thing wrapped with something else, like maybe I want a whole bunch of text items on my page, I need to have it in some type of higher level widget container. And so one of the ways I can do that simply is I will right click on here and I will click refactor. And then there's a couple different things you can do, but oftentimes I'm trying to wrap a widget with another widget. And so one of the things that I like is list view, because this gives me the chance to do a bunch of things. Okay, so now it's wrapped in list view, and notice it gives me some nice text there showing me when my list view is over, but it's also giving me an error. The purpose of a list view is to have one thing after another, which is helpful when we're having like mobile apps and stuff. So if I mouse over this a little bit, it should say that one of the properties of this is children. Where is that? Should be in there. Why? Man, I just ruined my whole video because I'm not seeing the thing that I'm looking for. So usually the attributes are in here. Well, I'm just going to go from memory. Well, actually, I've got some documentation up. So look, I'll pull up the documentation since the little IntelliSense prompt thing isn't giving me what I was hoping for. So, so here, let me pull in another page. So I'm telling you, I'm not crazy. Normally the prompting works just great. But so here's a documentation page. And so if I go down here to find list view, it I have a parenthesis there, and then there's like multiple properties. And so one of the properties is children, which is an array of stuff. So we could also set padding on there and probably some other properties, but I could just do just children because I just want to have more than one thing displayed on the page. So instead of child, I will type in children, and then I need to make a list. It looks like an array with the bracket and try and get it, whoops, try and get it formatted okay. And well, what is formatted? Okay, there we go. And usually I will put a comma after each thing that I create. Okay, so so before my widget just had one piece of text, but now it has basically a column of however many things I want. And so I'll just do text, 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 and I could have other visual components there, but this is good enough. And so I will hit save and I will come out to here. And now I have two of these things. So if I wanted to do more things like center it or put other navigation, it's just a matter of basically nesting my components properly. And sometimes if I want to have like a really complicated visual component, what I would do is I would right click on here. I would right click on a widget and I would select refactor, and then I would say basically extract the widget, and basically it gives me like a whole separate class to work in that I can give a single name to. So let's just say the visual component was really complicated. Rather than having like 500 lines of code right here related to this one word, I could extract it into just a big long 500 line widget that does all this great formatting, centering, etc. And then I just say include it right there. Maybe I call it like the super cool button. So I have a class super cool button and I just include it as one of the children. So, all right, that was an extremely long version of Hello World, but you saw the basics. And so, all right, maybe just for giggles, let's go ahead and stop that. And I'll just do one last thing. Let's just see if I can get that thing to run on the little phone emulator that I have out there. And it might take it a minute. The next video I'm planning on doing is going to be related to the task that I have to do for a project I'm working on. I want to import some text. So my next video will be just the process of importing some text. So here we go. And the reason for that is because I eventually need to get it into a database and stuff. So to be able to display a whole bunch of filtered information related to an app I'm working on. So yeah, you can see that this looks the same thing as the other one, but this one's just on a phone. So all right, well, I hope that's helpful for getting you started, and I'll see you in another video.